Viper versus Noblord.
To be honest, my lineup kind of ended up being targeting my first opponent, Noblord.
I predicted Viper to bring cube decks or mid-rangey decks, but he brought full aggro, and these full aggro decks are able to just hit my decks in the face before I can get online.
I respect Noblord a lot as a player. He's a really good player and he made it to championship now. It's kind of unfortunate for him that my let's just target Noblord lineup worked out as well as it did.
My lineup against my group is a rather rough one. I have an Odd Warrior, which is going to be quite powerful against my entire group. Oftentimes it's probably going to get banned. Then I have a Hunter, which is going to be also strong, but it probably won't get banned. And then I have my two OTK decks, the Quest Rogue and the Topsy-Turvy Priest, and they're both going to be fairly weak against Viper, who's my round 1 opponent.
Like, he seems to be very unfavored in the series versus me, so my way out of the groups is just beating Noblord in the first round and then probably losing my second game and then winning against Noblord again because he's favored versus the other two guys. And yeah, I just hope that the Priest doesn't like sneak out a win, because then stuff can get ugly for me.
The Viper's not usually an aggressive player, but what I'm hoping is that a lack of like mulligan knowledge or a lack of play knowledge might make him make some missteps. I've practiced matchups lots of times from both ends, and I know from the aggressive end that there's so many different paths that you can take. I hope that he takes like one of the weaker paths.
We are ready to kick off the first match of the day. I'm Raven, and joining me, of course, for this is Sottle, and it is going to be Viper versus Noblord, as you've just seen. And I think it's just, Viper making a very astute point there, is that the way the groups work, it is very important to win your first match, because it is fairly likely, if you lose, you will play that opponent again.
Yeah, and Viper showing that successful Hearthstone is more than about the technical play that we've talked about over the last day and a half. It's all about the mental side as well. He talked about how he built a lineup to counter Noblord, the player who has tendencies, exploitable habits, and he's done that perfectly by bringing this very bizarre-looking lineup that is taking down potentially Noblord out completely by executing that double Jeopardy law in the groups, where you can just beat the same guy twice and find your way out.
Yeah, and looking at the bans there, a little bit confused. I think I got my ban messed up a little bit, as it looks like on there that the Hunters are both banned out for players. So I did think the Odd Warrior was banned out. It made a little bit more sense to me. We'll get that checked just to make sure. But we see the comfortable position Noblord likes to play in as well. He has mentioned that a couple of times, and that he likes to basically replicate how he plays at home and just be the most comfortable possible, because when you've got players like Bunny Hopper saying, yeah, I was really nervous playing that game even though I'm already qualified to the World Championships, is when you know every single player feels it. But let's kick it off. It's going to be Noblord on the Priest and Viper on this Malygos Rogue, and very fitting first game for the point I've been talking about quite a lot over the past few days, is that everyone's lineup's just crazy.
It is.
It is. It just is.
And Viper actually tweeted a screenshot, not sure if it was last night or this morning, of saying, you know, the plan for my next series, and it was just a screenshot of his turn 6 hand as Malygos Rogue, and then turn 7 his opponent exploding. So that if you're not familiar with Malygos Rogue, that's what it can do. It can, you know, summon multiple Maligeese as early as turn 6, turn 7, and throw out enormous amounts of damage on top of that with Sinister Strikes and Eviscerates and the like, Razor Petal volleys as well. But Viper did find himself struggling a little bit with it in the previous series, where he just was not finding those Elven Minstrels to really get the deck going.
Yeah, it's a very strange combo deck, because at the moment a lot of combo decks draw their whole deck and then kill you. Whereas this Rogue, you need like a third of it.
Yeah.
But you have to play with 30 cards, so you just need to play cards that get you to that 1/3, and those are some of the key cards that you do need.
Yeah, Kobold Illusionist is the engine. It's the card that you need. It summons a 1/1 copy of a minion from your hand. You want that minion to be Malygos, always. So because of that, you are at an absolute minimum in terms of minions that you can put in your deck. It's the Malygos, it's the Kobold Illusionist, and then it's the Elven Minstrels that essentially just find you those cards. And when when Raven says that you don't need to draw that many cards through your deck to get this guaranteed combo, that's why, because you have the tutor effect of the Elven Minstrel to help you get there.
Yeah, and then we look at this APM Priest. Probably Noblord, the #1 specialist in the world for this deck, at least as far as I'm concerned. We even saw him the other day pilot it and just create the lethal with time to spare. He sits back, takes a sip, faster than I could even work out if it was lethal, and he just locked it in like it was nothing. It's a very, very complicated deck to play, and deck you can easily misplay on, as misplays often lead to death.
Yeah, and if you're unfamiliar with it, that test subject there, the idea is you essentially just loop Divine Spirits and Vivid Nightmares onto the test subject to create huge amounts of health buff. You drop that on a Stone Tusk ball, flip it around, and you're dealing 32, 64, 128
80
damage.
yesterday.
Yeah, however much you need to do. Noblord is very proficient with it, but it's weird that you say that, because I think there's this kind of strange false perception that's come out. Noblord told us that he's really only started playing the deck very recently, but I actually asked that question to him in the interview. I felt the same as you. I felt like he's been tweeting about this deck since day one, so I don't know whether he's trying to pull the wool over our eyes there or whether he doesn't have as much experience as we think he does, but either way, the end result has been fantastic in terms of his play with the deck.
I'm going to go the other way. I called him a specialist. I never said he's been doing it for long.
Sure.
I just feel like he's extremely proficient at the deck.
You were just foreshadowing the 2019 Hearthstone competitive format.
There you go. See,
Yes.
it's, you know, layers, Saul, layers.
Like a parfait.
No, onions.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was just impressive how quickly Noblord showed us that he can just see the lethal.
Yeah.
It's like, he just, okay, go, done. He doesn't even have to think about it, because we've seen what overthinking can do in some matchups as well.
I do enjoy watching Noblord play. He is a bundle of nervous energy. You saw him previous series, if you saw him yesterday, you saw him constantly just very animatedly counting things on his fingers, which we were watching backstage and theorizing how distracting that is for the opponent, wondering how far you could take it, whether you could just stand up, lean over the monitor and count things on your fingers in front of your opponent's face.
Probably not.
Probably not,
It's probably
no.
against the rules, classed as bad sportsmanship.
I'd
but
like to know where that line is, though.
yeah, can you just show me exactly how far
Right.
I'm allowed to lean over the
Yeah.
monitor or not?
Where is my safe zone?
Not here, Sottle. Not here. Interesting Seance use. It's a card that hasn't seen tons of play, but a card I really like because of moments like this. You don't have to target your own minion with Seance, and that can
Yes.
really make things, shake things up and keep the plans flexible and fluid.
Yeah, I think it's a great addition to the deck, since the deck has shifted over to be a quest deck as well, because it makes it extremely flexible. You can use it as a Radiant Elemental. You can complete Amara and then use it as another Amara, which is incredible in a lot of matchups. And then also in kind of race for card draw matchups like this, you can just copy high-value card draw minions from your opponent, as Noblord has just done. And that Elven Minstrel is extremely valuable to Noblord in the coming turns.
Yeah, and even certain aspects of just like, when you think about cards like Carnivorous Cube, your opponent's Ziliax, or things like that, being able to just create a copy of just a high-impact minion that might not really progress your plan, but slows your opponent down is also, all these decision trees are very, very important. But now, look at Viper's hand. He does have some pieces of the puzzle. The Malygos is just there because there was a Minstrel been played out. And now he can pretty much guarantee getting to the Cobalt Illusionist as and when he chooses.
Yep.
And then you'll be looking for cards in his hand, mainly Prep and Necron Vial, and then the Blade as well. And all the big tools. Because already with Eviscerate, double Sinister Strike.
Yeah.
Sorry, double Evis, double
Double
Sinister
Evis,
Strike.
yeah.
That's just going to kill him.
Yes, he's drawn so much damage here that he's not going to need huge numbers of Malagis. He's just going to need a single one perhaps on board to be able to get the job done. If he draws preps as well, to be able to float through some of that extra mana and get the job done.
I will say as well, one thing that is tough about APM Priest as a viewer, I would say, is knowing how far ahead or how close they are to win condition in the game, because it can alter a little bit as well. But what general things is Noblord actually looking to just create in his hand? We've just gone through Vipers, but what about Noblord?
Well, so the basic makeup of the combo is 3 total copies of Radiant Elemental, be those actual Radiant Elementals or effects that can copy additional Radiant Elementals, of which there are a couple in the deck. Then on top of that, you're looking for Divine Spirits, Topsy-Turvy, Stone Tusk Ball, and a test subject, and then that will get you over the line the majority of times. It gets much more complicated than that, though, and that that is where knowing the deck as well as we theorize Noblord does comes into play, and also what makes it so difficult to read from the opponent is that the deck also plays Power Word Shield, which is a card that draws a card and can also be looped infinitely into that combo for 0 mana. Quite a lot of the time, even if you don't have those combo pieces and you have 4 to 6 cards left in your deck, you actually still have guaranteed lethal because of the amount of cards you're going to draw.
Yep.
There's a lot to learn about Topsy-Turvy Priest.
It is extreme levels of pattern recognition
Yes.
that is required, because it's not... It's going to sound bad, but it's less creative and more just knowing the pieces of the puzzle that can fit together to create lethal.
Yes, I would agree with that assessment. It's interesting to hear Noblord talk about it as well. He has this kind of almost weird programmer's terminology that he uses in terms of like different sets, like shorthands for different setups. And I heard him talking to a couple of other players, you know, talking about like a specific lethal route that you take. And he had this shorthand quip for it. And the player just looked at him as if he was speaking German or something. Just like, what does that mean? You're going to help me out here. I don't play Topsy Priest.
What would have been really funny is the confusion on the player's face from speaking German if he was talking to Viper.
Yes.
And he'd be like, less confused about the play and more like, wow, you can speak German? And we see evasion there picked up, which is one of the, I would say, very few defensive tools that this deck even runs. Not going to be so good versus a deck that only requires 1 minion to hit you anyway.
Correct.
So many
Can change.
options.
Some players do prefer to go a route where they attack with like 316 attack Stone Tusk balls, for
Right.
example. So it'd be kind of interesting if that was your muscle memory, like always going that kind of route, and then evasion was an option that you had to then learn to play around. But in Noblord's case, we've seen him go for the single big boy on multiple occasions.
Yeah, and that can happen, to be fair, purely because you might want to hit to a taunt and then lethal them, so you want multiple attacks.
We
so
honestly
it's not
could-
literally wrong.
We
like-
honestly could talk from now until the end of this game without referencing a specific play, just about different things you can do with Topsy-Turvy Priest. Like, it's such an involved deck.
And already you see how much damage is available in the deck, in that Viper is eviscerating a loot hoarder. Like, it does not have limited damage. It's absurd.
Yeah, and he was doing that really just because he recognizes he's a little way away from what he needs to do in terms of getting lethal himself. It feels like he might as well just try and add some detriment to Noblord's game plan by burning a card away.
Yeah, and I think most importantly, on the flip side of burning cards, he probably wants to just play sprint next turn. Get to the weapon, which is very, very important in getting an extra activation on the Kobold Illusionist, as well as those preps. So I think just throwing it away, I don't need the damage, but then sprint to just refill the hand and get something done afterwards.
Because guess what Sprint's going to draw? Not only the Necreon Blade, but potentially Razor Petal Volleys as well, and it just immediately replaces the damage that you've lost.
And the levels of damage you can do with this deck, and the fact that Viper's using Eviscerate shows that it exceeds Amara. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because like you'd be like, wait, what if Amara's? That's like 40 health refresh, and you've just used Eviscerate. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, you just kill them. Positive thing here for Viper is, I say a positive, it's kind of strange. There's little he can do to stop lethal if Noblord has it. So he has to just play as if he doesn't. Because there's no way he can stop it. Doesn't even run taunts. There's no way he can make it harder for Noblord. It's, do you have the cards to kill me? Yes. Well, you win then. That's it.
Yeah, right.
So
his
you
only
don't-
way to
you don't play.
potentially stop it was to try and force the overdraw of like the Stone Tusk ball, right?
Right.
Like there's something that he attempted to do last turn while getting rid of cards. Noblord has a kind of wry smile in reaction to this sprint coming down.
And this is one of the scary things as well about the decks, and maybe where the decks are quite similar here, is that because I said, oh, Viper only needs a third of his deck to get this done, well, you can draw that by now and kill them. So just as much as both players kind of just hoping each one doesn't have the unstoppable win condition, it really is a race for the correct resources at this point.
It is. Noblord currently missing a Divine Spirit and the Topsy-Turvy itself.
Also, very important to note, this Dead Ringer is probably going to be dead next turn, which is then going to help potentially cycle a card, and I'm going to continue to fill up Noblord's hand. But there's nothing really he can throw away. Scream?
I wonder.
Would you ever do that to mess
Well,
with the minion?
The Amara is a card that he can essentially throw away from hand. He does have 2 test subjects, which are a little surplus to requirements, although the Power Word Shield cycle might be useful on one of them if he's going to wait for that.
Would you ever consider trying to screen stuff into
Oh, for
Viper's
sure.
deck?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But it's hard to do that because so many of the minions that you can play to scream into the deck are death rattle card draw minions that you want to go off for yourself to continue to draw cards.
This is cute.
Yeah. Does find the Divine Spirit. It's now just a topsy-turvy away. I believe a Shadow Visions draw would end up being lethal as well. I'm not sure if that is a guaranteed out regarding the number of spells left in his deck to find that topsy-turvy that he needs, but it feels like it would be very good and also would feel like a state in the game where Noblord will feel that Viper is getting so close that he'll need to go for it. That might be the exact kind of thing he's calculating right now, is exactly what his outs are and what the different routes he has to take are based on different card draws.
Right, and I think Viper's now just past the point of being able to do anything this turn, so I think he needs to just go hard card draw. He just needs a prep.
Yeah.
He's just missed prep for, you know, 2/3 of his deck.
Yeah.
It's actually quite unfortunate at this point. As a single one makes... Oh, there's Necron Blade, which helps. A single one makes Necron Vial do so much, along with all the burst damage.
Yeah. So now this is a huge signal for Noblord that it might just be time to go if he can, but he can't. He has no way of moving down through his deck towards that topsy-turvy that he's going to need.
After seeing the Eviscerates, I know I talked about this earlier, but is Noblord's best hope to just play Amara and kind of cross fingers? Just hope maybe it pushes it. He's not quite drawn the damage yet.
It's possible. I mean, he did see Eviscerates and so forth being used previously, so I guess he just has to hope that Viper can't do 40, because this does also deny the 3 from the weapon being swung at the face. That backstab's a big draw, though. That is a free extra copy off the Kobold Illusionist. Plays the Illusionist, swings the weapon for 1, backstabs for 2 Malagos. He does have the Necron Vial, but it's probably too expensive at that point. Yeah, it's definitely too expensive at that point.
But does the backstab make up for it? So what, he'll gain 3? No, 2.
2.
Hang on, I'm trying to do mana.
So many.
So we can cast the Razor Petal Volley and the Razor Petals.
For 4 more.
Yeah, with plus 10 to each.
And then have 1 to spare.
Yeah, so that's 30, that's... Is he just off?
Yeah, 36, I believe. We're in that region.
Too soon.
Oh, wow. He's going to shiv him down to 36 and set up...
Still
mildly
no prep.
silly game,
That's
yeah.
absurd.
Bottom 4 cards, 2 preps, and there we go, Viper.
Prep just sold, and that has to be a
That-
topsy draw.
yeah.
It is a topsy draw.
Oh, wow.
Noblord snaps it out. As long as he does not misclick here, make a mechanical execution error, this is going to be locked up. And Viper, head in his hands, feeling hard done by. And you have to say, quite rightly, 4 cards remaining in the deck, 0 preparations drawn.
Talk about how fun Noblord is to watch on camera. Viper's almost the opposite and often is very unreactive, but that there just shows everything. So close, literally for so long being just 1 card out of 2 away for winning the game. But Noblord ends it, and Viper just, as you can see, just cannot believe it. Bottom 4 cards, 2 preps.
It's a huge
That's
win.
unfortunate.
It's a huge win for Noblord as well, because the first series was just the story of this lineup doing what it was meant to do, you know, prey on Noblord. So now coming back into it in the rematch, Noblord needs to find these matchups, first in queue order where they actually are winnable for him, and secondly then needs to take those slight favourables that he can rarely find and the slight unfavourables that he's going to find quite regularly. And he has done just that in game 1 with the Topsy-Turvy Priest.
Yeah, absolutely huge. He tweeted about, oh, he lost favorable matchup in the past in a very, very important match. Maybe that means he can win an unfavorable matchup when it really, really matters. So Noblord takes the win out of nowhere, and Viper is going to have to sit and work out how he's going to recover from a very, very unfortunate opening, but there's still plenty of time left yet. More Hearthstones coming right up.
Hi, I'm Noblord, and I'm from New Jersey. I'm most comfortable when I'm not wearing shoes, so I take them off when I play in high-pressure situations just to ease the stress. Even when I was very little, I just did not like wearing sandals, didn't like wearing flip-flops. I would just go bare feet. I really enjoyed that feeling of being outside, just one with nature, you know.
Bloody Face is walking away, but most importantly, congratulations to Noblord. What a game.
Hearthstone more so fills the competitive drive within me. So as opposed to the side of me that likes to be relaxed, and then there's a super competitive side. So I actually placed nationally in junior lifeguarding, an event known as Beach Flags, which is sort of a racing thing. And so that sort of got my hunger for competition going. I think I've had much more practice at handling my emotions, because I've lost a lot.
Noblord is pretty much just cornered, and that's gonna wrap up the series.
Players at this stage, they get really nervous, they make misplays a lot of the time, and so I want to just try and play my best and make my play as clean as possible. I would like to say thank you to my family, to my friends and fans for these 4 years in the Hearthstone community. I have really appreciated all of you being there for me, and I really enjoyed my time here.
I'm Viper. I'm from Magdeburg in Germany. Everything kept on going. Even after I qualified for Worlds, I still wanted to essentially just win the next tournament. I went into every tournament with the same ambitions. I just wanted to win. I wanted to perform well, and it kind of would be cool to be the role model of other players. In terms of, if you think some deck is good, if you think whatever you're doing is right, then just do it. Just believe in yourself, and sometimes, I don't know, Peanut Shaman is a good deck.
And the Viper is going to the next round, to the championships, in fact.
All of the media stuff that happened from 2016 championship throughout 2018, all the tour stops, then casting the German HCT together with Kamlan sometimes. It's a nice feeling to one time be on the other side talking about, well, what are the players doing right now? What do they think about going for those lineups? And I don't know, I really enjoy that. I'm regularly streaming beginning this year in December and so on as well. I guess the more prize money I earn, the longer I can try to build up a stream. I really like talking with people, I like teaching them. We actually end up in useful discussions. Those are kind of the fun things, besides always competing, always trying to the best, and always having to win, when you can just hang out with the community and give something back as well. Yeah, I just really want to keep performing well. I want to keep doing well, and maybe at some point I'm going to wake up and be like, okay, actually, it's all going really, really well now. Like always, I'm super grateful for everyone that is supporting me, everyone that's I don't know, every tweet or every message I get that says I voted you for my champion, I believe in you, nice decks. All those little things, I really appreciate them. And yeah, I'm going to try to give you those 4 packs.
We are back with this series, Viper versus Noblord. This is for a spot in the top 8. Viper, everything on the line. You can see still a little bit upset, I think, after that last game. Noblord was, I will say, not supposed to win. Viper got down to the bottom 4 cards of his deck, but in there, 2 copies were there, and he didn't manage to pull them. And that was the loss.
My eyes just haven't left Noblord since he came on camera. He's fascinating for me to watch. A little bit jittery, talking to himself. There was a big intake of breath there at 1 second. He is a real bundle of nervous energy. You can see he's going through the ringer of emotions constantly while playing Hearthstone at this level.
That would tire me out. Look how much he's moving. Crazy. Let's go into game number 2. Noblord's going to be on the Quest Priest. Too much Priest! Quest Rogue, sorry. And Viper is going to be on this Odd Mage, a deck I have grown to love very, very quickly. And now, well, little bit upset that it couldn't find a way to keep it in after rotation. But yeah, the Odd Mage has just so much damage.
Yeah.
Turn and turn and turn and turn and turn. It just never ends. And so much burst potential as well that there's often not a lot decks can do to play around the levels of damage they can come out with, even with just a few cards.
Yeah, and actually a little bit of late game resilience as well, which is perhaps the surprising part, right? When you factor in Subject 9 being a resource generator, and then the late game package of Jan'alai and Archmage Antonidas as well in Viper's deck, it can go long, but going long is not really what it's going to be aiming to do in this matchup. And that Secret Keeper on 1 is just what Viper was looking for, because he was a little bit slow in terms of generation in the immediacy.
Right, and I think it's going to sound strange, as most often things I say do, but there is a bit of a difference between going long and not fizzling out, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be long control late games, but you also don't hit turn 5 and go, oh no, there's nothing left to do.
Right.
So I think that's what this excels at. Just it doesn't fizzle out as much as previous iterations of extreme aggro decks do. Yeah, the easy ping, and now just the multiple choice of 3 drops for Viper coming up. Kirin Tor Mage would be the top draw. Going to be there though.
Yep, Snap playing the 3-2 into the Secret Keeper on the previous turn is kind of interesting, because a lot of people will look at that and say, well, my opponent just pings it. What's the point in me playing this? This is one of my valuable cards, right? It's one of the things that progresses me towards quest. The problem is if you don't play that, suddenly Viper goes coin Secret or coin Kirin Tor and actually absolutely blows you out, and you have just nothing on board to contest, and those 2 minions of that 1 minion plus a secret is going to end up doing 8, 10, 12, 14 damage to you before you have any kind of answer. So it's just a sacrifice, essentially, from Noblord to say, yeah, you can ping it, but I'm making you ping it. You have to. That's my choice.
And I was going to say that and I think I still like it, actually. I think, like, coin missiles I would have liked more that turn. It protects the Secret Keeper, and what it would help with is always just staying that 1 extra minion ahead to try and land that Fungal Mensa a little bit later. Pyromaniac, definitely a cool card. 1, just a 3-mana 3/4 seems to be quite good at the moment in general. But this coin ping is exactly what I was going to talk about as well. Just if you kill a minion with your hero power while that is on the board, you draw a card. Very, very powerful indeed, combined with the resilience of the minion itself.
Right. Ziliak's about the dream draw for Noblord in this matchup. It's just about the only real Hearthstone card in Quest Rogue, right? When you break it down in terms of just vanilla, powerful, good card that's played across a lot of decks.
Surprised they even play it.
Ziliak's is about it.
And you see the power, though, of this Odd Mage and why it's been so successful recently is Ziliak's trade, fine, ping, gone, next. And you can still develop Explosive Ruins or push damage with Cinderstorm or play another Black Cat. So on, so on, so on, so on. And because the Pyromaniac's on the board, then you can still draw more cards. And you can start to see how this is kind of getting out of control. It's an aggressive deck with tons of card draw potential. I'd love to see Cinderstorm. Just get him. Push the damage to face while you know it's going to go there.
What to do?
Interesting point as well, because Noblord hasn't particularly progressed his quest, so Explosive Ruins could then slow that down even more, because whatever he does play is going to die anyway, so without 2 of in hand, it means that he has to continually iterate on what he wants to get the quest active on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. I was going to say I'd be very surprised to see a Cinderstorm get thrown out there, but Black Cat versus the Explosive Runes is kind of interesting. Because it's about the time where Viper might just kind of have that feeling, just this game sense that you develop when you played a matchup enough of this might be about the time Noblord needs to start making some kind of quest play. And by doing that, Explosive Runes is a great disruption tool for that. Fortunately for Noblord, he does pick up the Wax Elemental, which is his most resilient minion in the deck, weirdly enough, against a Explosive Runes. Even though he does take damage, it's just the loss of the Divine Shield does still leave the Taunt in play.
Yeah, and you start to see the problem now, though. Again, I said I would have liked to have seen Cinderstorm. It maybe wouldn't have been the best play, but now there's Cinderstorm, there's Arcane Missiles, there's Ping, there's the Fire Eater, there's everything a Viper needs to do whatever he wants, pretty much. He can clear off these minions with almost zero trouble. It's not even difficult, and do something else. Whilst this Pyro on the board is still just not really being dealt with. It still has value if he pings a minion.
Yeah.
He's all just shaking his head at how powerful this odd mage looks in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it in this matchup, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things going on here. Just, you know, the damage permanence of everything Viper is doing is enormous against Quest Rogue if they can't get the quest done. If you have must-kill minions like a Pyromaniac and it has 4 health, like, asking Quest Rogue to kill a 3/4 is unbelievably hard, right? Like, if they don't have Sonya and multiple charges to come at it, they don't kill things. It's not what they do. They just freeze them, stall them out, bounce them back to your hand.
They annoy things to death.
Exactly, yeah. So this Mage deck is just kind of perfectly set up to be the most annoying thing possible against a Quest Rogue strategy. Look at this Noblord plays the South Sea deckhand. I'm assuming there's no other play this turn but potentially using the Vanish. And he just stops mid-play to compose himself, take a drink of water.
I like it. If you've not got many decisions to make this turn, take this turn to take your drink, because Viper might start doing funky stuff that you need to pay attention to.
Right.
Time utilization is important. But already, next turn, Viper, abundance of options. There is Leroy ping for 8. There is getting the Clockwork Automaton down, just to ping for 4. You can save that next turn to use Daring Fire Eater, and the Clockwork to ping for 8. It's silly. It's great. I love it. What?
It's Prep Vanish. This is the play I was referring to, Zola Prep Vanish. It's the only real play that gives him a world where he's getting on some kind of quest completion.
And because of the pings, Janelai, or Janet, as I like to call it, is ready. And Ragnaros hits the board, and there were various ways he could have done this. So Leroy ping would have also done 8, and this means that Clockwork Fire Eater ping next turn, unless there is the one Scale Hide to heal for 1 and clear this board, is going to be impossible, and Noblord takes the loss. And Viper, after what happened in the previous game, you've got to think it's just feeling a little bit, right, this is doable, I'm not cursed. I can get this done.
So if you need that to remind you that this matchup is doable with the lineup as Viper has against Noblord, then yeah, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I just mean after the first game of like bottom 4 double prep, you feel bad, right? Like you feel like, oh no, is this how this series is going to go?
But I think it was fascinating to me, that moment just at the end for Noblord, because he played the deckhand. And I think at that point, playing all the cards in your hand, which was what he had, Zola Prep Vanish, it was the only available play, and he'd already kind of, it wasn't legally the only available play, but it was the only play that really made sense, the only play that gave him a timely quest completion, which is what he needed. And I'm sure Noblord recognized that at the point that he made the play. Just that moment of stopping, drink of water, deep breath, reevaluate, look at it again, try and find something else before we commit. It's a fascinating moment to me.
Yeah, and
Noblord really is interesting to me to watch.
Well, it's what we've talked about for multiple players and multiple turns of games as well, is that when you are not decisive at all and you leave things till late, you can't do things like that, right? Obviously, Noblord had a very small selection of cards, small selection of options, of course. So I'm not saying you should do this all the time, but you commit halfway and go, right, playing this is correct, so I'll play this. Done. That's correct. And now just sit and think and reassess. And that is a skill that not every single player has, to be honest. A lot of players wait for the longest times and then commit a little bit late, and it maybe forces the hand in certain situations.
Well, 1-1 so far. Noblord and Viper both sitting on different sides of the coin here. Noblord is a man having to struggle uphill in terms of most of these matchups, whereas Viper has this supremely aggressive lineup left over. And yes, I'm including Malagos Rogue in that equation. A lot of people have said this is, you know, aggro decks plus Mali Rogue. No, it's aggro decks. Mali Rogue is an aggro deck. It kills you on turn 7.
Unless you got prep in the bottom.
Unless you got prep in the bottom 4, yeah.
But
Which,
yeah.
by the way, I love that, you know, Mali Rogue doesn't get this clone priest attack of, oh, they just kill you and you have nothing you can do.
Because it doesn't just need one card, Sol.
Neither does clone priest! What do you want from me? Okay.
Okay, but speaking of, you know, aggressive lineups and aggressive decks, this is one of the most aggressive openings that Viper could ever wish for right now, with the flurry of 2-drops he can choose from depending on situation into the Nightmare Amalgam. We talked very quickly last game, can Rogue really kill a 3-4? Well,
no.
There's another one,
Yeah.
and it's just going to continue. I don't even know what Noblord does, and with the Bluegill Warrior, it's a nice insurance plan versus if a Brewmaster was dropped again like last game, right?
Yes.
Just Bluegill, please get buffed, continue on pushing down.
Crucially now, though, Noblord... Oh, never mind. Forget I was
quiet,
about to
Sol.
say anything. Crucially for Noblord, he does have the Sonya this time around, and I'm glad a draw this perfect has happened for Viper, because it ties in to a discussion I had with Noblord, where he said, you know, this Murloc Paladin, because there's no Cold Light Seers in there, the ability for Murlocs to snowball is actually a little bit reduced. So what he realized is that he could actually leave Murlocs on the board and not necessarily worry about them being buffed out of control, because that's always your fear with the Murloc synergies, right? They're famous from all the way back at the start of the game. One Murloc becomes 2 Murlocs, becomes a huge buff, becomes another huge buff, becomes a war leader, becomes your dead. That's not necessarily the case, Noblord felt, against this build of Viper's Murloc Paladin, but when you draw the absolute stone cold cashews, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's what happens. Sometimes this game is so ridiculous that even at this higher level, the players just have to laugh about it.
That's what cracked me up the most. We saw Viper kind of laugh, and you know, he's not doing BM or anything. He's not being mean or anything like that. It is kind of funny. When you get that, when Noblord is laughing as well, you just understand that you just both go, yep, that happened.
It's shades of, what was it, Firebat Sifka? Is that what it, the Whirling Zapomatic
the turn, like turn 2 or turn 3 lethal, yeah. It's so funny, and I love that, you know, you mentioned, and I think this group of players as a whole have really shown that, is just, these people just like playing Hearthstone, they like competing. Yes, there's extremely high stakes on the line, but sometimes you do just have to laugh. So always nice seeing Viper smile, as he may not be the most emotive character in the world, but again, he goes 2-1 up in a blink of an eye. Is he going to take the whole series and continue this dominance? We're going to find out after this.
To by air, rain and fire. The only things a real troll desire. But to smash and to mash and to bash and maybe mango. Here it's strangle. Thorn, you'll be warned. My low's gonna trash ya. Say your prayers with voodoo, bashy bashy. Time for fun, we're gonna run ya through. Too bad for you.
It's only once a generation. One victor wins the confrontation. Standing here, got no fear. I'm the best in the arena.
Man, you never seen a hero cut you down to 0.
Victory is no joke. Careful at your door.
Cloak.
Get your stars. Our star is born. Here in Stranglethorn.
I'm Viper. I'm from Magdeburg in Germany.
And Viper goes up 2-0 very quickly.
I would have loved to bring something like Control Mage or like those decks. No one would have ever expected them. So I knew I'm gonna be playing with Noblord. And Noblord is known and to be expected to bring decks like Hakar Druid or Topsy Turvy Priest, Quest Rogue. The Shaman is just really, or control decks in general are just really bad against that, so I couldn't allow myself to bring control decks to this tournament, sadly. I think the thing I'm worried the most about is the Paladin deck. My Secret Odd Mage and my Hunter deck, I just expect them to win, and I expect one of them to be banned every time, so that's fine. The Malygos Rogue is kind of just, it beats every combo deck, it beats every control deck, and it's like okay-ish versus the even mid-rangey decks. It's definitely unfavored, but it can win games. Ever since I started playing Hearthstone, I think I got a lot of criticism because when I thought something is good, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna play it. It has like good stats for me, and I think it's good, and I have a reason for it being good. And sometimes one card looks very crazy. Sometimes you just put one of those cards in your deck, and then a lot of matchups change. They have to fear me just finding a new deck for a strategy that seemed to be impossible before. At this champs again, almost no one thought aggro decks are gonna be a thing, so they went all greedy and control or anti-control, essentially anti-control most of the time. And yeah, now I was the guy no one was ever expecting to bring aggro, and I think that's kind of what the lineups I brought. And now if you have Quest Rogue or Resurrect Priest or Death Rattle Hunter, you go up against my decks and you look at them and kind of feel like, well, I lost. I can't do anything, so I'm just gonna devastate my opponents.
We are back here at the HCT Winter Championship, and it is Noblord versus Viper. Will say, let's all talk about something very important indeed, is we are doing well on the caster prediction side of things, but I imagine after game number 1, TJ, who picked Viper, was probably shaking in his little shorts, but after the last couple of games, probably feeling pretty comfortable again. It's like everything's, reality's come back into place right now in terms of the lineups at least.
Yeah, it is now potentially a slightly more difficult matchup coming up immediately. I believe that Noblord is now going to bring out the Odd Warrior, which is kind of the weird X factor in his lineup. It's a weird lineup. We kind of make it sound like Noblord's got this like super greedy anti-control lineup that's just going to get farmed by the aggro decks. There's a mid-range hunter and an Odd Warrior in there. So there's kind of an aggro deck and a control deck in there alongside these two anti-control decks as well. So
I feel like it's kind of a throwback. It's kind of like the 2-2. Lineup,
well,
right?
It's 2 and 1 and 1.
Well, that's why I said kind of like 2 and 2. I mean, if Admiral was here, he would agree to me. 1 and 1.
That's almost
and 2
half.
Is like 2 and 2, which is 4, which is the lineup number you need. But yeah, it's definitely a wonky lineup. I feel like this is the theme of this tournament specifically. It makes me very happy. But I think like the players are ready to go now, and Viper only needing to win one more match to stay in the tournament.
And yeah, it is going to be the Odd Warrior coming out against the Malygos Rogue here. So Viper is going to have to get his skates on. Try and amass some damage before Noblord is able to achieve those massive armor totals and get himself out of range. But even then, out of range is a very big number against Malygos Rogue.
That's it, and something you spoke about not too long ago about the Mali Rogue being an aggro deck means that, again, yes, Viper's looking for a big combo turn, but that combo turn can happen so early that Noblord can't do the old thing you normally do versus combo decks. Armor up pass, armor up pass. Like, you don't have enough armor ups, as you said, to dodge the amount of damage. And Viper, I'm sure, is just hoping against hope that Prep's in at least the top half of his deck this time. As you literally almost always can't do enough damage without it.
None will survive.
Still, Noblord, with his opening hand, does have some moves he can do. He has the Stonehill, and then, the sort of selection of 5-drops. I feel like that's where the deck's the deepest in the 5-drop department for Odd Warrior. So it does mean that you can get there and then start to at least do something, whether that be put on pressure or defend with the Super Collider, one way or the other. Noblord's got it covered.
Decent start for Viper, kicking off with that Roll the Bones, finds himself a Shiv, so he's found himself some cycle options for the early game, which is just about all he wants. Roll the Bones, Shiv, it's interesting to see these kind of card draw options being used. Shiv is a card that we have seen sprinkled in and out of various combo-y rogue decks historically. Roll the Bones kind of looks like a fairly poor card in isolation when you are just, most of the time, just drawing one card off it. But it's a card draw option that's not a minion. That's the crucial part for the deck, because that was a Novice Engineer or a Loot Hoarder, those are then cards that can sometimes be stuck in your hand when you're looking to do combo turns with the Illusionist.
Right, and look at it at a very basic level. Rogue has often in the past run Gadget's Hand to draw cards.
Yes.
This Rogue does not, and not because Gadget's Hand's not good, it's just not good in this specific deck. So the Shiv into the Fan of Knives, you can easily see how this deck cycles extremely quickly, even though it doesn't have the straight up power of some other decks in terms of just raw card drawing. It requires a lot of tools to be able to get it cooking.
Yep.
Nice little raptors.
Just about in the wrong order though. The Fan had come first, then it would have been Fan on 3, and then Shiv plus something on 4. It would have potentially saved Viper a mana later on, but this way he's floating mana on back-to-back turns, which could end up hurting his efficiency a little bit later, but it's really not a big deal. And then London buses, you wait all day for 1, and 2 come along at once.
For some reason, I was like, are falling down? I was like, oh, no.
No, that's not the song.
Being infected. Okay, so this is one of the weird issues as well for Noblord, and where honestly I'm not sure what the best approach is for this matchup as the Warrior, is all of this removal he has, well, they don't play anything to remove. Nope. So like Reckless Flurry, -1 card. Shield Slam, kind of -1 card. So all of this just doesn't get much done. I wouldn't be too surprised to see just an extremely quick cube going forward, just to try and put stuff onto the board.
I think Reckless Flurry in this matchup, like relative to the matchup you're using it in, Reckless Flurry in this matchup is the worst card I've ever seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 mana, kill yourself. That's basically what that card is in this matchup.
Interesting point, though. Can you play Reckless Flurry before he gains armor?
Oof. Noblord chuckling to himself. I think there's maybe just an air of resignation coming over him now as he starts to recognize Viper is piecing just about everything together.
Just a quick check as well. It looks like, unless I'm mistaken, Noblord actually has forsaken any weapon removal in his Odd Warrior. So there's no Ooze or even potentially Harrison. So that means that this Necron Blade is just there.
So I'm assuming he's gone double owl as well, like we saw from some of the other players.
Double owl, yeah. Okay. So there's no... This blade is there, and it will get procced when Viper wins the game. Almost certainly, and there's nothing Noblord can do about it.
I think Noblord is in a slightly better situation than he realizes, though, because Viper's hand is entirely stalled out right now. He's still missing pieces to get this done, and he has no way of starting to cycle through towards them right now.
And my big question is, with this Dr. Boom in hand now for Noblord, do you go Dr. Boom and try...
I think Noblord's play has clearly signaled that he is not trying to out-armor this as a strategy.
Double sap. 1, freeing up cards in hand, and 2, yeah, spend another turn playing cards, especially the 5-drop, which means you can't press that armor button.
I think this gives him maximum top deck potential, which is correct to plan for in this situation, because in his current situation, his hand does nothing. So he has to entirely plan for what his next draw is. So this opens up, on top of all the other good draws, Sprint as well as something that's immediately powerful for him.
Also as well, with the way the hand has panned out, a single Minstrel will get him the cards he needs. Straight away, no questions asked. 1 Minstrel pulls him the second one, and the Kobold as well, because that Malagos is already in hand.
He does
can activate it very easily.
Damage on top of that as well, though.
Yes. Even these evasions being used to proc the Minstrel, so you don't have to commit any damage or a prep or anything, is just perfect.
Right.
Yep, Viper's like, do I have lethal? No. Okay, pass.
Do I have lethal? Are any of my cards playable? Okay, your turn.
What's the outcome of playable? Evasion's playable.
I guess, yeah.
Well, I know you like to talk about legal Hearthstone turns.
Right.
So.
Are any of my cards useful? There we go, let's go with that.
Okay, different question.
Yeah.
Now we're going to see just the point I'm really interested in with this hand is, does Noblord just slam Boom, or does he try just for anything else? He does have a cube in hand. He has a Direhorn. He even has his Dinomatic, but would feel like that would do more harm than good right now. I'm just really interested to see the approach, because it's a hard matchup to play.
I think for now he has higher tempo plays that mean Dr. Boom is perhaps superfluous for the time being, but I understand the root of your question is, has he ruled out playing Dr. Boom in the matchup? And I think the answer to that is not.
Flurry.
But I think for now, yeah, there's just more aggressive possibilities, right? There's just more ways to develop more stats on the board. Oh, Noblord, no!
I did say it felt like Dynamatic were doing more harm than good.
2 shots to his own Zola and completely missing 2 Raptors at the same time. Viper now getting to the point where his cards aren't really any more useful than they were last turn, but it's getting to that point in the game where he just has to start keeping cards out of his hand so he can continue to draw more if he's, for example, picks up a sprint off the top.
And to be completely honest, if you just double traded and then vanished, it really isn't a bad vanish. You know, it's not a good one, but it's really not detrimental. And I think the combination of freeing his hand size up and just giving Noblord his stuff back so he still has nothing to do or has a lot to do with limited resources next turn is just good enough.
Right.
What you don't want to do is use an evasion. This isn't like the Priest matchup where you're like, well, they're going to OTK me anyway in one hit. It doesn't matter. Evasion actually just does matter in this matchup. So that is something he'll be looking to hold on to and wait till he can gain way more value later on.
Viper, upon recognition that he really didn't have anything else to do with 2 mana anyway, just decides he might as well vanish, get the Raptors back, skip trading, just play him out again. Nothing else he was going to do with his remaining 2 that turn anyway.
Did play straight into Dynamatic though.
Sure, I mean...
Now it's getting interesting about this Boom because Noblord's got a huge hand, which is 100% true, but a lot of them are low impact minions, aren't they? It's like, okay, I played a 2/6. Okay, that was crazy. But yeah, it's like, yeah, there's a 2/6, I've got another 2/6, and then the cube kind of takes away from the board as much as it adds a lot of the time.
Right.
So it feels slow, but we can see Vipers does gain a damage piece. But really, Viper just wanted to hit like that 1 card draw. Just something to just go off on. Because there can't be that many more cards left that don't dramatically progress his plan.
There's a few. I think there's a couple of Razor Petal volleys. There's the second Sinister Strike. There's the backstabs, I believe, as well. Necrium Vial does help, but it's not, you know, really the cards that he needs are the second Roll the Bones, the Elven Minstrels, and the Sprint. Those are the only draws that really help him get fast towards where he needs to be.
It's a good chunk of his deck, though, that's left, though.
It's a third. I don't think that quite fits into the category of there aren't many cards that don't help.
Yeah, damage helps. You need damage to kill him, don't you?
Sure. Yeah, forget the Malagos. Let's just start throwing Eviscerates at his face until he dies.
The other game. Ooh, missile launcher. That is going to create 1 big minion. Suddenly, Viper's in trouble.
Yep.
Out of absolute nowhere.
Yeah, he does still have the Vanish in his back pocket, though. Oh, finally. For Viper, the Minstrel does come out.
And even Vanish into Minstrel is very, very nice. Can still get away with a threat and weave in this extremely important card. That burn very representative of the rotation.
As Baku disintegrates into the ether.
I'm not feeling so good. Mr. Broad, I don't feel so good. Instead of being upset, just laughing. Now, though, there's still a... so how much damage are we looking at right now? Because the Kobold Librarian can be procced once. There is no other way to proc it twice without eviscerating your own minion, which feels a bit backwards.
Yep.
So there is still,
17.
you know, what, a vial, backstab, or whatever that's going to be needed to actually create some large burst damage. Roll the bones. No cards in the deck that create that roll more than once, though.
Yeah, it's just not really what it's designed for either. think Viper now feels a degree of safety. This is kind of the similar idea as I was talking about very extensively in the previous matchup against the Quest, when it was Quest Rogue versus Odd Warrior, which is Viper's at 11. There's 6 damage in play. That really doesn't matter against Odd Warrior, you know? There's no way that you die from that position.
Extremely true without the boom, right? Yeah. And the Omega Assembly being played for 3, because then you're not even getting a... The only reason he's this low is because of Magnetic, right? You know, that's the only reason he really took a lot of damage. But now with Evasion into Evasion, it is almost 2 ice blocks. Here comes the Boomer.
Phantom Knives, not it for Viper. I believe he's still short. Currently 29 by my count. Phantom Knives has drawn a Sinister Strike.
So he's gonna go for it.
Means with the extra damage, he can now Razor Petal volley his own Illusionist, which ends up with more damage. And I think that is going to be good enough with that extra Sinister Strike off the top for Viper. Viper certainly believes so, at least.
Yeah, you don't lock that in that fast and not have the lethal. Headsets come off, and Viper is going to be taking the win. And we see our previous championship competitors and worlds already qualified continue to do well in this tournament. The tiny Malygos tag team getting the job done, and it was just about in time for Viper, because there could have been, if there was no lethal then, a Discover Mech War Gear, for example, to gain that enough damage to actually punch through the evasion to win the game. So Viper, although you say a lot of the time that Warrior can't pressure, with the Dr. Boomer mechs on the board, you do slowly run out of time.
Yes, but you saw how much time he had, right? Because there were 3 to 4 turns in that game where Viper did literally nothing in terms of progressing towards what he needed to do. But because it was Odd Warrior, he had that time to build up so much damage. And one of the interesting lethal iterations you can get with the deck, Razor Petal on its own only representing 6 damage with being buffed once by Malygos.
Right.
If you use it to get another Malygos on the board, that then adds 5 damage to every other spell that you're going to cast, so transforms into significantly more damage in the end.
Yeah, and we see the first group of this tournament has been finished now, as Yuying was the group winner from the previous days.
That's very good. Better than I can do. The name,
and, and Viper actually taking down Noblord in that decider match. So again, just a huge congratulations to Viper, and I will keep talking about this. I don't care what you think at home, but the players who are already qualified, not only making it to more championships, but also performing at this level. Bunny Hopper already into top 8. Viper through his group. It's kind of ridiculous, to be completely honest.
Yes.
Unexpected, but I'm happy about it.
Yes, it's, you know, until it actually becomes concrete, we can't give you concrete information on what it means for the tiebreakers.
Right.
But in a nutshell, every time you see a player who is already qualified for the World Championship, Viper, Bunny Hopper, Bloodyface, progress through another match, that just increases the chances that we're going to have a very interesting and chaotic last day of this championship, as we have to sort out tie-breaking positions.
Yeah, it's almost, if you imagine just a big cauldron, 3 witches are the players who are already qualified, and they just, every time they win, they're just tossing random things into the bowl.
Goes in.
We do, and then we're going to find out what happens afterwards, but most importantly, let's find out what Viper thinks of that series. He's standing by with Froden.
Viper moves on to the top 8. This is a story of the year, so to speak. It seems like you keep going deeper and deeper. You know, the rematch against Noblord, excuse me, the rematch against Noblord seemed like you were pretty comfortable the entire time. Was that the case for you?
I went into the game knowing I'm very, very favored against Noblord, but I think after losing the first game, I kind of figured, what if this actually continues happening? What if my bottom 4 are like the 3 cards I need again, and so on and so on. But I don't know, I kind of had some bad feelings in my head, but I knew I'm still gonna be okay, I think, so.
Gotcha. And I think that a lot of people are rooting for you, mainly because your lineup's really unique. How do you feel like you're going to go up against Jing from Group B? I think you mentioned it, that you feel like this is going to be a really tough matchup for you now, because you had the dominant lineup against Noblord, but now you're feeling like Jing you might struggle with?
Yeah, that's kind of the problem. I think my lineup is very polarized against the majority of people, so it's very, very favored against most of them, or at least like good or okay, kind of. And Jing is one of the, I think, 2 or 3 people in the entire field I'm very uncomfortable against. So I was really hoping to kind of dodge playing against him, but yeah, I don't know, gonna try my best. I think it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, and it's going to be really exciting to see if you can even go to the top 4, because you're just going to make tomorrow more dramatic, which I was like talking to Bloodyface because he's playing up next against Vieli. I was like, dude, if you and Viper continue to win, you're doing this for the fans, right? You want to put out more Hearthstone esports content?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be more games, and I think everyone that is in top 8 or is going to be in top 8, he's also just rooting for us because it's more spots for them. Yeah. So I don't know, I want to see what happens if anyone makes like top 8, top 4. Look kind of cool.
All right, man. Well, great play so far. Good luck in your match later today in the top 8. And with that, let's head over back to Raven and Sottle.
Thanks a lot, Dan, and again, congratulations to Viper. He is one of the players who's had an absolutely stellar year. He has been playing for much longer than that, of course, but take us through this record, Sol, because it's extremely impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it really did kick off. We first saw him in an early championship there. You just saw it up here. 2016 Europe was the first time we said hello to him, but then look at all of those 2018s popping up alongside that as well. This has really been the year where Viper proved that he was as good as some people were saying he was, and that final bullet point is really the one that matters overall. His work is done for the year until the World Championship starts, when again it starts from scratch again, because he would love to be the world champion.
Yeah, 100%. And also you add on top of his personal achievements, the achievements of all the other players he practices with as well, in which no doubt he has a fantastic impact on as well. But that was only match number 1 for the day. We've got tons more coming up, but it was Viper versus Noblord in an extremely tight match for Noblord, I'd say. He did get away with match number 1, but Viper did manage to pull it back.
Yeah, and it was a series that was going to be uphill from the beginning from Noblord. You know, even though we explained that he's not just a pure combo deck lineup, he has that mid-range hunter and he has that odd warrior in there. Even after this first game went down kind of against the curve, with Viper getting all the way down to the last 4 cards in his deck without finding a preparation, Noblord went out to an early lead, but you could still see from the remaining matchups he had to play that it was going to be a struggle, Raven.
Yeah, it did feel like a battle between fire and ice, at least in terms of the players, with maybe Viper looking starting to crack after game number 1, but very, very, very quickly, the overall strength and matchup of the lineup as both players, just laugh at the speed and ridiculousness of that Murloc game. But Viper is the one who took it. He's going to be moving on to top 8, and we can put some more players through very, very soon. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.